Last night, the Carolina Hurricanes dropped their third straight game to the Ottawa Senators up in Canada's nation's capital. And tonight, they are looking to bounce back against the Detroit Red Wings and clinch the Metropolitan Division. Find out what went wrong last night and how they can come away with the win tonight in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Tuesday afternoon. And this episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Visit fanduel.com/locked on today to get started. And in today's episode, we'll be recapping last night's game against the Ottawa Senators and previewing tonight's game against the Detroit Red Wings. And last night, it was a very frustrating game. The Hurricanes lost 3-2, but you watched that first period, I wouldn't have blamed you if you turned the game off then, because it was a pretty poor effort to start off that game going down 2-0. They were lucky it was only 2-0 that they were down. But like I said, that's the third straight Hurricanes loss. They could have clinched the Metro already, but they have just been struggling big time. It's been something we've been talking about really ever since Andrei Svechnikov went down and that massive, massive hole he has left. I was talking about with the folks over at the Surge Cast, and the hole that he has left feels more significant than holes that like Sebastian Aho left. I think it's just because Fetch carries such a big load for this team offensively and defensively. And then you look at the time of the year it is that we're not having him, everything is just exacerbated that much more. And the Hurricanes, like I said, it was a really bad effort in that first period, but they were able to fight back in the second and third. Ended up tying it up. And the tying goal was Brent Burns off a pass from Seth Jarvis, and it was a power play goal. And that has been something that the Hurricanes haven't been able to buy for quite a while, it seems. And that's something that they're really going to have to continue to do, is get power play goals. And I've said, at least make it look like a threat, because for so long it just hasn't even looked like a threat. That's the big thing. It's, oh, they're going on a power play. Okay, well, time to go to the bathroom. The Hurricanes power play has been bathroom break time because it has been that bad. And yeah, they were able to get one last night, which is great, grand, wonderful. But they are really going to have to get that in line going into tonight against Detroit, the season ender against the Panthers, and then going into the playoffs, whoever we're playing, whether it be the Islanders or the Penguins or the Panthers, whoever it may be, they're really going to have to be on their A game in terms of that power play. And I know at the end of this game against the Senators, there's some controversy around that goalie interference call against Stefan Nazin. Watching it back, I don't think it was goalie interference. He looked like he just grazed him. Ottawa's goalie decided to flop and drew that call. And then the unsportsmanlike, on top of that, all that ended up leading to Ottawa's game-winning goal. And I think we've talked about it at length of the consistency when it comes to goalie interference. We've talked about it here on this show. Other Locked On NHL shows have talked about it. You hear it everywhere. Anywhere you're consuming hockey content and NHL content is goalie interference. There's no consistency with this. That, in my opinion, definitely was not goalie interference. In my opinion, that probably should have challenged. But because it wasn't like he barely grazed him. If anything, goalie should have gotten called for embellishment on that. But it is what it is. The game is behind us. It's not changing it. The Hurricanes came away with the loss, and yeah, that led to the game-winning goal for Ottawa. But at the end of the day, the Hurricanes' effort throughout that game, yeah, they fought back real good and tied it up and gave themselves a chance to win. At the end of the day, they were lucky to have came back and even made it a game with the effort that was getting put out there. And you know, I feel that this team, they really got to find a sense of urgency. That's something Rod Brind'amour talked about in post game. But one positive thing, before we go into the things that they need to work on, is that the penalty kill. Penalty kill went 6 for 6 last night, and you can also look at they took 6 penalties, and that's not great. Yeah, that is something I do want them to really clean up on. Let's not give teams 6 power play opportunities a game, because the teams you're about to be facing night after night are not teams that you can really give 6 power play opportunities to a night and get away with it like you did against Ottawa and have against other teams this season. It's not going to happen. They have got to get that cleaned up. I'm hoping that was just kind of one off. Tonight against Detroit, it'll be back to normal levels. 2, 3. And then we go on our merry way. I do think that game probably just a bit of an outlier, but again, the penalty kill did come up big because, like I said, that game really could have gotten way out of hand, and just on even strength stuff, it could have gotten out of hand. Not even taking into consideration that you gave Ottawa 6 power play opportunities, and that's not good. So good on them for that. Penalty kill has been one thing that has been really top notch, and all season long. That has been the one consistent thing. Whether we can talk about the Hurricanes offense struggling, the power play struggling, and goaltending sometimes being a bit wonky, but penalty kill has been the one thing that has been consistent all season long, and that is fantastic. And it came up big here again, and that is something that you can build off of. Like, hey, yeah, you got all the negative from this game, but like, hey, we did do this right. Let's continue to build on how good our penalty kill was in this game. We need to cut back on the penalty kills, but let's continue doing what we're doing there. And I think that's great. But there are definitely some things that the Hurricanes have got to work on. And if they're going to win tonight against Detroit, a few days from now against the Panthers, and then whoever they're going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs. And we will talk about the things that they need to get done to come away with some wins. And we will do that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, the Carolina Hurricanes are playing tonight at home against the Detroit Red Wings. It is their final home game of the regular season. And if you want to place a bet on that game, you can do so at FanDuel Sportsbook. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I mean, I visited Comerica Park when I was up in Detroit with my dad. Beautiful, beautiful ballpark. And that's because right now new customers can step up to the plate and with a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. We've been telling you about this for a while now, and if you haven't taken advantage of it, and it's something that interests you, you need to do so. All you have to do is go to fanduel.com/locked on to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. And so you don't miss your chance on a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. You got to make sure you go to fanduel.com/locked on to sign up. You can bet on your favorite baseball team. Yeah, whether it's the Tigers, whether it's the Red Sox, whether it's the Braves, the Nationals, bet on them all. You can also bet on your favorite NBA team going into the playoffs. I'm trying to figure out who bandwagon I'm gonna jump on. It's looking like I'm maybe jumping on the Sacramento Kings bandwagon. And then of course we got the NHL playoffs fixing to kick off here before we know it, folks. So again, go to fanduel.com/locked on to claim your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join today. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes, they've got a lot to work on before, tonight's game, before the next game against the Panthers and the playoffs. And we're going to quickly dive into what they need to do to really get a win tonight, get a win against the Panthers, clinch home ice in the playoffs because they can do that tonight. Again, they could have already done that if they weren't having these issues that they're having, and if the Devils weren't as good as they are this season. But diving into the first and foremost one for me is something that we already alluded to, is that they need to play with more urgency and a sense of purpose. That was something, the urgency especially was something that Rod Brind'amour was echoing last night after that loss. And it really does feel like they are just going through the motions out there. Like, I don't know what, just something isn't clicking. Like, yeah, you can go to, the puck lock and whatnot. Yeah, that game I was up, that the game me and my dad were at up in Detroit, when the Red Wings got that buzzer beater. The Hurricanes, they were just really struggling with some puck luck in that game. And, they were just not having great shots. Shots were, just missing wide. They're using the logo on Ned's jersey as a target, right? And, just not good. And the puck luck hasn't been there for them. Yeah, the shot selection hasn't been the best either. So that is something that we really need to work on. I've said in the past that quite often it feels like they are shooting to shoot, not shooting to score. And that was been something we've talked about all this season, last season, season before, playoffs, all of it. That's been something we've talked about throughout the course of this show. We're in the 4th season of Locked On Hurricanes. That's been an issue every single year, uh, of something we're talking about, of them just shooting to shoot, not shooting to score. And how, at this point, I have no idea how you fix that because it has been an issue that has been going on forever. So, I get teams are going to have their off nights and everything, but this has been a long-term problem, and they have really got to get that in control. And again, just play with a sense of urgency and purpose. And I think that does go hand in hand with this next one of playing as a team. We've seen it many times of when this team is, playing as a team, no one's fading into the background. There's no passengers. No one's just out there to be out there. This team is dangerous. And we've seen how it can be. We've seen it, without how they can be playing as a team without Svetch. We talked about how big of a hole he leaves, and yeah, it leaves a massive hole. But when this team is still playing as a team, all the guys out on the ice, guys on the bench, everyone is firing on all cylinders. They're still an extremely dangerous team. And if they're playing like that, they definitely can make a push for a Stanley Cup. But the way they have been playing as of late, they're not playing a complete team game. They're not playing with a sense of urgency and a sense of purpose. I think, tonight against the Red Wings, you have purpose. You can clinch home ice tonight if you win. You need a little bit of luck in the Devils to lose, but you can clinch home ice tonight if you win. And that's something you need to do because it could have been done a while ago, but it wasn't. And now it's coming down to the wire again, and they've got to get it done. And there's your purpose. Do you want home ice or not? Do you want to clinch the Metro again or not? Do you want to win a division title for the 3rd year in a row or not? Like the purpose is there. Let's get it done. And again, that's easy for me to say. It's easy for you to say. We're not the ones out on the ice, playing against these NHL teams. So it's easy for us to say that. But again, the purpose is there. You have something to play for. It's not like you're, Boston. You've clinched the President's Trophy. You've clinched this. You clinched that. Like you're just waiting it out. Where you could, rest, top guys, and sit them, let some other guys come in, get some reps and whatnot. You're not in that position. So you need to be playing, like you're trying to clinch the division, clinch home ice. So that's going to be a big tonight as well. And again, it just feels like they've been going through the motions some, and I feel that that could definitely be part of the end of the season. You have clinched the playoffs already, but again, there's still stuff left to play for them. It's not like Boston where you've clinched everything that can possibly be clinched. You've set the record for most wins in a regular season. Like they've done it all already. So you know you're not in that position. Like, let's get this stuff done, and let's get it done tonight. Then you've let it go for so long. You probably gonna have something to play for against Florida as well, depending on how things go with New Jersey tonight. So the Hurricanes, they got to play with urgency and purpose. And again, don't be too extra. That's another thing that we've seen quite often with over the years, just like, the shot selection of they try to do too much, too many passes, trying to be too fancy, all this other stuff. Like, just keep it simple and just stick to your game. Don't try to do too much. And I think that's been an issue with them as of late, is that they're trying to do too much. And they've got to get that stuff in line if they're going to want to clinch home ice, make a run in the playoffs, win a Stanley Cup. Don't be too extra. Like, what works for you, do it. Again, that's again very easy for me to say sitting here at my desk. Easy for you to say, wherever you are. But again, there it's been a criticism of this team for many seasons of them trying to do too much, passing too much, and that has been big issue. They need a guy that has a shoot first mentality. So many of their guys have pass first mentalities. They need some guys with shoot first mentalities. Do we see that happen in the offseason, between trade, free agency signing, whatever? Maybe, maybe. And I forget, who I was. I think it was Surgecast I was talking to. When it came to looking back on the trade deadline, what should they have done? Should they have made different moves? Should they have went for a goal scorer? You look at where they were at the time. I think they made the right moves at the time. And you could have went for a goal scorer, of course, but where did they slot in? At the time, Svetch was still healthy. Where does that person slot in? Say Timo Meyer. Where does he slot in? If Svetch was still healthy. It's easy to figure out where he'd slot in now with Svetch being out, of course. At the time, I felt that was the right trade deadline. Of course, love blockbuster trade. It'd be great, of course. But looking back on it now, you kind of wish they did do something. And I do feel that, come free agency and all that, I do think that is really going to need to be something that they do address. Again, Pacioretty, who's supposed to be that guy, tore his Achilles twice. So, we'll see, how that goes. Does he come back on a bargain deal? Do they let him go and, end up, just going after someone else? What happens? But that is really going to be something that they need to do later on, is get someone with a shoot first mentality rather than having so many guys that have pass first mentalities. Because again, it does feel like quite often they're just passing the puck around, just boom, pass, 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 and your power play runs out. It's not a new thing with this team, and getting to the power play is, if they're going to want to make a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the power play it's got to do something. Power play has got to come alive. We've seen how it can be when it does show up and the life it can have, and it is magnificent. But it is, drier than some folks' Thanksgiving turkeys. Okay. It is bad. And their 5-on-5 play, as a whole overall for the season has been really good as of late. Not It's been fine. It could be better, but 5 on fly is fine, but their power play, they've got to show up. They've got to do something with their power play. But yes, yeah, just quick recap of that. Play with more of a sense of urgency and purpose. Play as a team. Don't be extra. Stop, trying to be too cute and all that stuff. Stop going through the motions. Like again, play with a sense of purpose and urgency. That is really going to be big for this team tonight. Next game against Florida after that, and then getting into playoffs. Play as a team, play with urgency, play with purpose. Do that, maybe power play ends up falling into place. You know, is it the top power play? Will it be the top power play in the playoffs? Probably not. Even if things do fall into place for them, but it's got to get there, and a big part of that is going to be again them playing as a team, play with a sense of urgency, play with a sense of purpose. Don't go through the motions. Make every movement count out there. They do that, they can win tonight against Detroit. They can win that next game against Florida. They can win against the Islanders, the Panthers, the Penguins, whoever it may be that they end up playing in the playoffs. They can win then, but they have got to do those things right there if they're wanting to come away with the win. And coming away with a win is something that they need to do tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. And we will talk about that game right after this quick break. All right, folks, we are back. And again, this is a must win game tonight to remain in first place in the Metro Division and try to clinch that division title and therefore clinch home ice in the playoffs. It's a must win for them. Last game against Detroit was that buzzer beater up in Little Caesar Arena where Detroit scored like a little over 3 seconds left. There was that too many men thing, but that is what is like last night with the goalie interference. It's in the past. Nothing we can do about it now. It is what it is. We're moved on from that. It's fun visiting another arena. But kind of wish the Hurricanes came away with that win, but they can come away with the win tonight. And we talked about things that they need to do already. And all those things we just talked about in the previous segment definitely fall into place tonight for the keys to in tonight's game. But one thing we talked about in the game against Ottawa, one thing I do want to add is that they need to limit their penalties. The penalty kill went 6 for 6 last night against Ottawa. That's great. That's fantastic. But you still gave Ottawa 6 power play opportunities, and that's something you got to reel that stuff in. Like I said earlier, I do feel that's a little bit of an outlier. I think you kind of get back to normal levels. I'm not, it's not something I'm super, super, super worried about, but it is something that happening this late in the season. You have a game like that. Hey, let's get that cleaned up. Make sure that doesn't happen again heading into the playoffs. Like that's going to be another thing I do want to add for tonight. And penalty kill, of course, stay strong. Whether it's 2 for 2, 3 for 3, 4 for 4, whatever it may be. I want to see the penalty kill still operating on that high of a level. They do all that, as well as the other things I detailed in the previous segment. I think they'll be all right tonight. I do. And I think that the Hurricanes are going to be a bit frustrated. You look at last night's game. You look at the last game against Detroit. I think there's going to be like they want some payback. I do think that could be something that plays a factor into tonight's game of them wanting some payback, them wanting to get that win back. They should have gone to overtime that game. They should have at least came away with a point. But again, Detroit got away with that too many men call. It is what it is. And I think that is going to be something in the back of their heads in tonight's game, along with, hey, we need to win this game so we can try to clinch the division and clinch home ice for the playoffs. That's going to be big. But shortly before I did start recording, the Hurricanes did put out a lineup for tonight's game, which we, of course, will go over and see what the Hurricanes are going to be working with tonight. And it is, of course, not too crazy. Pretty much, the same stuff we have been seeing as of late. Top line, Tabo Teravainen, Sebastian Aho, Marty Necas. Second line, Stefan Nazin, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Jesse Pulgarvi. Of course, Pulgarvi now sliding down to the second. He was on the first in the previous. Third line is, of course, staying the same with Martin Stahl Foss. One of the most consistent lines all season long, with really the only change being Martin occasionally slotting up into the top six. And then on the fourth line, Drury, Stepan, and Jarvis. Defensive pair is obviously the same. Slavin Burns, Shea Pesci, Gosper Chatfield. Honestly, those would probably be the defensive pairs for next year as well. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, if it works, it works. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Those defensive pairs are not broke. Let's not try to fix them. And then looking in net, it will be Antti Ranta since Frederick Anderson got the start last night. Antti Ranta has been absolutely ridiculous this season, really flying under the radar. If he was a bigger name, if he stayed healthy, could totally be in the Vezina conversation if he was a number one goaltender with the run he's been on this year. But it's not. It's back up, and he's had a lot of injuries. So tonight, the Hurricanes, they some line shuffles. Let's hope that stuff pays off. You do have Aho and Necas together. I do think that is a very deadly combination. And of course, Teuvo Teravainen up there as well. Yeah, he hasn't been his best this year. But again, still very deadly. Him being up there with Aho, then you put Necas up there. Very, very deadly combination up there on that top line. I'm going to be interested to see how this second line pairs out. Kotkaniemi again really coming to into his own as a second line center for the Hurricanes. That offer sheet really looking like it's paying off, and he continues to get better and better. I really want to see Pulgarvi, really, start to, come into his own a bit more. I do think, with Svetch going down really hurt him. I think we kind of all figured, his role coming in would be similar to how Kotkaniemi's was last year, kind of being on the fourth line most of the time and, slowly, getting the feel of it. But yeah, he's been thrust into a top six role, which I really don't think he's ready for. I think, you should probably still keep him down on that bottom line, put Seth Jarvis back up top. But that's just me. That's what I would do. I would try to keep Pulgarvi down on the fourth line for right now. Keep him with, Derek Stepan, down there. I think, that could be really good for him. But, ultimately at the end of the day, I'm just me. I'm sitting here in front of my computer with a microphone in front of my face. I'm not, the guy that makes the roster decisions. They know more than I do. They know more than you do. They know more than all of us combined. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's what they're going with. That's fine. But again, I think they should probably swap Jarvis and Pulgarvi. But that's just me. I think again in net you're good. Third line you're good. Like all the defensive pairs are great. But I do think that would be one thing that I personally would switch. I don't think Pulgarvi is ready for that role yet. If he comes back next year, if they will work out a deal, I think it'd probably be like a 2-year prove it kind of deal. They do something like that, ease him in a bit more. He gets like a full training camp, full season. Then things could be different for him. Then maybe he could be a top six or a middle six, for the Hurricanes. But as of right now, I think you kind of need to bump him back down a bit and put Jarvis back up. But again, that is just me. I'm sure a lot of folks are probably going to have the same opinion, but we are not the professionals. At the end of the day, Rod Brind'amour, Tim Gleason, those are the guys that know it best. They're going to do what's best for a team. And in Rod, we trust. And obviously, best of luck tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. We will, of course, recap that game tomorrow, as well as look at the Hurricanes playoff standings, how things are going there. And hopefully we're talking about a win. Hopefully we're talking about the Hurricanes clinching home ice. But we will do all that in tomorrow's episode. Make sure you are following the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes and myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. And as always, let's go Canes.